I knew the Music Man was going out on tour when I was actually in tour in China. So this is not my first tour, but it is my first tour in the States, which I'm very, 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 very grateful to be here. So I was in Beijing and I heard that the Music Man was going on tour like for the next year, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what a dream role this is for me. And it just so happened that I worked with the choreographer Joshua Bergas before, and I worked with Matt Lenz, who was the same director for The Sound of Music. So I was like, oh wow, I'm gonna really try to manifest this. So after I was on tour in China, I came back home and I was in Florida and I worked regionally sort of there, and I was working that material like constantly, all of Marion's songs. So I was making sure I was sort of in the right stamina for it. And auditions came around in probably May or April of 2025. And I emailed Matt Lenz and I was like, I really want to audition for Marion Prue for you. And he was like, fantastic. And I did all the material, I did all the songs. And long story short, callbacks happened and I made it to final callbacks and I got it. And I just was so, so, so excited. It's an absolute dream role also to just be part of like the lineage, the history of the Music Man and all of the women who have played it before me. I just feel so honored, truly. And we rehearsed in New York City for about 3 weeks in December, and then we teched in Springfield, Massachusetts, where we added all of our tech, lighting, sound, hair, wigs, costume, all of that. And then we've been on the road ever since in January. Tour is all the things. It's hard, it's fun, it's exhausting, it's exhilarating, and I'm truly honored to be here playing this role and to tour it. People have been loving the show. They're on their feet clapping every single night. And it really feels wonderful. It's a beautiful, beautiful story to tell. What I said before, I make sure I get up and eat a good breakfast and I do my hot girl walks almost every single day if I can. It all depends if there's like a good gym, so I make sure I lift weights and all that stuff. And making sure I get a good night's sleep too is key for me. But I warm up every single day. I have a 15-minute warm up on my little voice memo app, and I do that. And then I get to the show and I make sure, like, I stretch my neck, I exercise. Sometimes we're provided PT, which is really nice, especially for the dancers. But the singers need it too because we're sitting on a bus all day sometimes. So it just feels good to just sort of, move your body. Sort of the things that I do to make sure like my performance is well rounded and make sure I'm in good vocal health. I drink lots of tea, lots of water, lots of honey. So those are sort of the things that I do to make sure the show is, up to par every single night. Some of the women that have played before, like Barbara Cook, originally, Rebecca Luker, in the 2000 revival, and Sutton Foster, who just did it, and Shirley Jones in the movie. Like they're so different, but they're so iconic. So I try to pay homage to each one of them, truly. But as something that Elliot Andrews says, who plays Harold Hill, you just got to look at people in the eyes and say the words. And yes, I do believe that is true, but also bringing in like sort of your own spirit and your own like emotions to the role. Like that's sort of what I do to sort of bring in my Elizabeth Quirks to it, because I think my Marion is spunky. She is funny. She's emotional and she's vulnerable. Um, so those are the sort of things about Elizabeth that I bring into my Marion, and I find my Marion too to be very relatable. Um, which she's not sure like gold like she is. She's a golden age like 50s like classic leading lady, but I'm trying to like break away from that and sort of bring her into this like modern day woman, because she real like Meredith Wilson wrote a character that is extremely independent. She's not going to settle for any man. She runs her own business, she takes care of her family, and this guy Harold Hill walks in pretending to be someone that he's not, and she just does not buy it until she sees what he does for the town and what he does to her little brother. So that's why she ultimately falls in love with him. But she really is such a strong character that was written in the 50s. And I'm so honored to play her because I think a lot of women in today's society like can sort of relate to her. Like she's 26 years old and she's considered an old maid because she's not married yet, and her mother is nagging her about, finding a husband. And I'm 29 and I'm single and I'm independent and I'm loving life, pursuing a dream in my career. So I absolutely relate to her, and she's such a strong character, and she sings this iconic, gorgeous music. So, yeah, she's really, really fun to play, really. What's so special about this musical is because it was written so long ago. The older generation sort of grew up with it, they knew the music. And I think the older generation is trying to get this new generation of people, of kids, to like come and see it because it really is, it's special. Not only is the music just so iconic, it really is. 76 trombones, Till There Was You, Shapoopy. It like you'll be tapping your feet and humming these songs at like for days after you see the show. But the story too of community and love is really, really important. And I think people can relate to it, nowadays, with what's going on in the world. And we really need to like come together. And that's what the story is about. And I think young kids can really relate to some of the characters and can relate to and hopefully relate to the story. Yes, are some of the jokes a little nuanced and a little, I guess, old-timey? Sure, but if you really like are listening to the show and experiencing the show, like there are things that you can take away from it. One of my favorite parts about touring is doing the stage door and people coming up to me and they're like, "Thank you so much, like for bringing the show to us." Like there's this one man who said he lost his wife like months prior, and she used to sing Till There Was You to him, and he was like, "You have no idea, like you singing that song just like brought back so many like memories. It's nostalgic. It's nostalgic of of the old of the old musical, the old golden age musical, but our production, I think we're sort of bringing in some modern day like things, some modern day like not jokes, but sort of having like a modern day flair to the jokes that make it more relatable to an audience." So those are some of the things that I think people will take away from it, just the community and love and just the joy that we're experiencing on stage. And I think it's great too that you mentioned like that high schools are doing the Music Man. Like, I think that's so wonderful too because it is still being produced, like from years ago, and high schools are doing it. And I think that's what's really fun too is having these schools come in and see your show who had just did the Music Man as their like high school production. So they're coming in and seeing the show and they're like screaming and they're raving about it. And that is so fun too, is to have those kids come and see our show and just like kind of like understand. I think My White Knight is probably one of my favorites to sing because of the journey that she goes on, truly, of, not wanting to settle, just wanting a man that, she can relate to and just be with her, and they can find camaraderie together, but also like have the same interests too. So that's one of my favorite songs to sing. But one of my favorite scenes to do is with Harold Hill in Act Two. I call it the Think System scene because that's all we're talking about. But it's such a great scene because it's just me and him on stage alone for the first time, really. And we are, we're connecting, the sparks are flying. There's a lot of things that, I'm figuring out as Marion, and he's just like, what's going on? So that's one of my favorite scenes to do because every single night it's a little bit different. But when the audience like really gets it and they connect, like that is just, it's really, really fun. Yeah, I have the best time with Elliot Andrews. He's really, truly wonderful, Harold Hill. Because I'm from Connecticut and because my family is very theater oriented, I have a father that's a stagehand on Broadway, and my mother was an actress turned theater teacher. So I was very, very lucky to be brought up in theater. So my first Broadway show that I saw was Beauty and the Beast. I don't remember a lick of it. So really, I think the first show that I saw and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. It is wicked. And I saw the original cast with Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel. And I remember her flying in the black cape, and I was like, oh my God, that is so cool. And I remember like popular all the pink and just like all of that. So like that was really, really, really cool to see. I was sort of brought up in that Wicked generation too. When the kids come to the stage door, and they're like young little kids, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just want to be like you, like I love it so much, and it's so sweet. But like one of my biggest advices I would give to like little kids who want to do this is just like is to be yourself, that like you are enough, because what you bring to like a character is unique and fun and fabulous, and trying to imitate someone else is not fun to see. We just want to see you. So my biggest probably advice is for kids is to just be yourself, and you are uniquely you, and to be a kind person. There's a bunch of tours happening right now, right? And it's wonderful for kids and just different generations to go see theater. There's so many great messages in it, and it's great to get to see like it's great to get out of your own world and to join in a new one. And there's so many talented people out there. People are singing their faces off, dancing their butts off, like acting, like just being a different person, and that is just so fun, and it's fun to watch, and just watching the human experience on stage is truly a joy, really is. So yeah, I think we're bringing in something different. We're bringing in that nostalgic, that golden age musical, and I think it's really important for people to see, because that's what theater was back then. We're bringing that good old time musical theater to audiences, and I think it's really, really important to see. And like you said, like people really they have been standing on their feet, clapping, and they're so full of joy, and it's delightful to see. So I'm glad that people are coming out and seeing it.
Live on stage, Meredith Wilson's The Music Man, May 5th and 6th, Forum Theater. Tickets at BroadwayInBinghamton.com.